So feeling emotions is not a bad thing, right? Usually when it becomes a bad thing is in terms of how you express that sadness, how do you express that anger, right? When you express it in a way that affects other people in a negative way, that's when it becomes like detrimental.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Open House, where every conversation opens up a new perspective. I'm your host, Durga, and today we have with us someone that I'm sure all of you are very, very familiar with. He's known for his humor, his dad jokes, and his shades, or rather was known for his shades. Welcome to Open House, Adrian. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me here, guys. Without my shades now, you need to cover my eyes.
And so today, Adrian, we wanted to just talk about, not about so much about SGAG. You've spoken extensively on that and you've explored a lot on that. So today we want to talk about you.
Oh, nice. Looking forward to that.
You and how you have built this brand for yourself. I mean, aside to SGAG, you've got an extensive social media presence for yourself and etc. So now let's begin with the shades. So you started wearing the shades and now you've taken it off, but you've traded them in for your glasses.
For today.
Okay. What motivated you to put on the shades and, to create the persona around it?
So in the early days, SGAG, we were just known for like creating all kinds of like funny memes and stuff. Yeah, so I think sometime in 2014, 2015, when, Facebook started opening up like the video feature, we're like, with the small team that we have, let's start like doing videos, right? And among the few of us, they were like, who is okay with being in front of camera? And nobody wants to be in front of camera. And I was like,
volunteered.
Okay lah. I'll try. Yeah, and back then, we were very cheeky lah. SGAG in the early days, we were very cheeky. We were always poking fun at people lah, any kind of things that happens in Singapore. I clearly remember one of the iconic incident that happened in 2015, if I'm not wrong. Right, or somewhere around that time was the whole Pokemon Go era. Singaporeans were just going mad and just running around like catching like Pokemons. And my team decided, hey, why don't we do like a video, right, where we go down to this spot in Hougang where there's this like playground and coffee shop and there's like 4 or 5 Pokestops. So it's like one hot spot for like all the Pokemon Go fans. Why don't we go there and do a prank? So that was when like, okay, who will be the one who's pranking? And nobody wants to do it, right? And I was like, how should I, protect myself a little bit just in case, people identify me? Or I don't want to get like bashed up and that I get identified on the street. So it's like, what if I wear shades, so that I can at least cover my identity like a little bit. So that was how we developed like the Xiao Ming like character. And this character like wear shades. So it was really true that video then it went viral with like a couple of million like views for that because people were really, really tickled by it.
Yeah.
And that was really how this character was developed at the start. And I kind of continued with this character as the years like went by because I realized that people are also, they love this like cheeky, funny, lame like character who's always playing pranks, cracking lame jokes.
Would you say that Xiao Ming is like an alter ego to you?
It is. I would say it's definitely an alter ego because if you know me personally, I'm actually nothing that is quite close to Xiao Ming. Xiao Ming is just like a very extreme side of my persona where deep down inside I have a very lame and cheeky self. And I can use this character to kind of bring it out.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you describe them both? Say Xiao Ming and Adrian, right? Who am I looking at now?
Adrian.
Okay.
Adrian for sure. Yeah, like I shared, I feel like just Xiao Ming is just a very small part of me that I kind of amplify and exaggerated, right? Just to, bring joy to people who's around me. Yeah, so I think that is one of the reasons why, as I continue to grow and evolve with the kind of content I'm putting out on social media, I also thought that, people should know a little bit more of Adrian other than this Xiao Ming character that they kind of know through the contents I've created.
Is that why you took off the shades?
Partly, another reason is because I fell while wearing shades indoors. No, just
really?
Because people are always asking me, right? Like, hey, you always wear your sunglasses and
can see or not?
Can see anything or not? And I was like, actually cannot see.
Really?
Yeah. No, jokes aside, I think especially when my boy came into my life and my wife's life, I realized that, a lot of the content that I started sharing on my social media profile was more than the character Xiao Ming and what he was doing, which is a lot of lame jokes and a lot of pranks. I was really just showing people a slice of my life. And I thought that, hey, that is not Xiao Ming. And then Xiao Ming is not the dad of my son, right? Adrian is, right? I should show up as, a little bit of who I really am, which is Adrian. Adrian is a guy who's without shades.
The shade sort of represents Xiao Ming, right? So when you decided to take it off, like, were you concerned as to how fans and your audience would feel about it? Like, will they still find you funny?
I mean, it definitely crossed my mind because it was a thought that I've been thinking about for a while, like, already. Because this is really like a persona, a branding that I've built for myself for so long. It has definitely served me pretty well, and is what people kind of also know me for. And I was having thoughts like whatever you have mentioned, right? And I think how I kind of came to the decision finally is, looking inwardly. I feel like, as a creator, maybe just as a human being, I feel like we need to live like an authentic life. And I think being able to understand, why I want to do this for myself is more important than what everybody else would really think. And I feel like that is enough for me, and I'm at peace with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And, speaking of that, because you mentioned about authenticity, right? So what does that actually mean to you after being in this line for so many years, almost 13, 14 years?
It's a good question, and it's a question that I ask myself like a lot. Maybe before this year, I feel like I haven't really built up the skill sets, the tools to fully understand myself. Because growing up, we don't really, get taught like in school by teachers or people around us. We get teach like things like math, science, but we don't really teach ourselves on how to understand who we are, how we are feeling, how we are reacting, why is it like that, how then do we rewire like ourselves. So this question about authenticity was a struggle for a long time because I don't have that vocabulary, and I'm somebody who, is very emotionally connected. I feel a lot of things, and sometimes when some of these feelings becomes a little bit more overwhelming, it gets a little bit out of control. So I think this year is where I kind of went for like a retreat to really understand myself, right? And to build up some of these tools. And I think only after I was able to do that, then I can find out exactly not only what I don't want, but what do I actually want, and why do I want it? Like deep down, how does it affect me as a being? Right? What's my vision and my purpose like in my life?
Right.
And I think that is what I've done this year that have kind of really changed the way that I think about things.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's so fantastic to hear, because as a creative, I'm sure you consider yourself a creative, and you do so much of creative work. But you mentioned tools. That's very interesting. You are right. We don't have the tools to understand ourselves. We learn math, English, and science. So what are some tools that you feel that you've learned that have helped you?
It's a lot of, I guess, also concepts, right? Sometimes we think of negative feelings as just bad things to be feeling. Feeling sad, feeling angry. And many times we will feel like, why am I sad? Why am I angry? Maybe I shouldn't feel like this way. When emotions come to you, it is natural because your being is reacting to something that has happened. So feeling emotions is not a bad thing, right? Usually when it becomes a bad thing is in terms of how you express that sadness, how do you express that anger, right? When you express it in a way that affects other people in a negative way, that's when it becomes like detrimental. So just understanding concepts like that has been really, really helpful. And it's not just I got to do with negative emotions. I feel like even with positive emotions, like why do you feel happy? Right? And how do you express it? Right? And why do people sometimes suppress happiness? Right? Is it because of something that's happened to you or whatever? Right? So being able to understand and connect these dots within your body, your soul, yourself, I feel like it's something that, I've learned, and I feel like it's very, very helpful.
Have you ever felt like, imposter syndrome, because a lot of successful people, they always say that, hey, I'm happy. Should I be deserving of this? Is this the moment that I feel like I've made it? So have you ever felt that way? Have you ever struggled to accept your success and your happiness?
I would say that because the purpose or the vision that I've set for myself and for the company is something that is probably never achievable. Like, our mission is to make every Singaporean's day like a better one. Right? So it's almost impossible for us to really do that. So in that sense, we have never really, reached the point where we feel like, oh, we have like made it. And I think with the whole creator economy like evolving, with us trying to also expand our reach outside of Singapore, there's always like more to do. So I think what we do is really we try to take little moments to celebrate the wins, because sometimes we just forget about the wins. It's just like just brush it away. After a while, maybe you get kind of numb to it as well. It's like, this get a couple of thousand likes, this a couple of million views. It becomes just a number. Yeah. So I think constantly reminding ourselves that every one person that engages with your content is one person that you have reached and touched in little ways. What helps me to remind myself of why I'm doing it and the kind of impact that I'm creating.
I'm sure in the last like 13, 14 years as a creator, as Xiao Ming, and what has been your greatest fear that you had to overcome?
I think the greatest fear is not being able to meaningfully contribute. Yeah. I mean, like what I shared, I'm very focused on impact that I create. And as time goes by, the company changes, content changes, audience changes, platform changes. I guess one of the bigger challenges is whether I can still continue to create like impact. I think that for me is also a motivation, right? For me to really, think ahead, look at what other people are doing, constantly like experimenting, right? Getting my hands like dirty, right? Being able to learn about, myself right now as both a professional and also as an individual. Because one thing that I've realized is that we all move through different seasons of life and different phases of life. And sometimes I feel like we may not have checked in on ourselves as we move to a new season of life, that maybe our priorities, our values, the way that we have operated has changed. We're stuck in the old mindset, but living in today's like circumstances. And this is where struggle comes in. Yeah, so that ability to be able to constantly connect with yourself, right? To find out who you are at this point in your life, I feel like it's important. Yeah, and that is how I kind of feel like, it helps me over the years lah.
Right. And having said that, over the years and now, for example, what is one misconception that you feel that people have about you?
Oh.
And that you...
They always think that I'm a very funny person. So when they first meet me, like as Adrian,
tell me
hey,
a
can you
joke.
tell me a joke?
And
I'm not... I'm not like a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
I'm somebody that thinks about humor, it thinks about content. It's a very deliberate thing. I'm not like a funny person and I turn the funny personality into content. Yeah, mine is a little bit more of a deliberate comedian, deliberate process of doing it. Yeah, so that is the biggest misconception.
Okay. Having said that, would you consider yourself like an extroverted, introverted person?
I'm an introvert, 100%.
100%.
I think over the years I've gotten a lot better. I think that character has helped me to open up like a little bit more. That's why I feel like the Xiao Ming character has served me very well. Because, like for example, when I go for conferences or networking event, when people recognize me, they'll come up and talk to me and we'll have a chat. Yeah, but if you put me in a room where nobody knows me, right, and have to go around and make like small chats and introduce myself and find out what they're doing. Oh man, it just kills me like inside.
I know, it's like...
It's not that I need to feel like important. It's just the idea of having to make like small talks with people who don't know me and I don't know them. I'll just be standing at the side, swirling my wine, going for toilet breaks and then just spending 5 minutes in there, take a breather before I go back out again.
So how have you overcome that barrier? I think a lot of people out there are introverts and some of the best actors are introverts, even comedic actors. So actually, two things I wanted to ask you, right? Choosing humor to start a business, choosing humor to personify yourself, it's actually one of the hardest things to do, right? Because comedy or humor is actually not easy. It's very hard. Did it come naturally to you or has it always been in you? Why did you choose that? And yeah.
So the backstory to that is, my co-founder and I, we were friends from way back. I think we were in junior college together. Yeah, and we were a group of 5 guys in the arts class. So we got really, really tight. And we're just a bunch of guys who does all sorts of nonsense together. And so that's where we developed like our sense of humor. And, with humor is like when you have people who builds on you, right? Who is accepting of you. you become more bold, you become more creative, you become, even more empowered to do more. So I feel like that was how we built up that creative or like that comedy confidence. I mean, if you're talking about SGAG itself, it was just like an opportunity, right time, the right space. Memes was like a big thing back then. We said, hey, why not start like a Singapore one? Nothing to lose anyway, right? And see where it goes. I just wanted a creative outlets to, do all my nonsense, right? And somehow in the early years, people loved the kind of nonsense that I created. And that's where I started thinking about taking, comedy a little bit more seriously, right? Thinking about, how do we really, turn comedy into something that is a sustainable career, or not just myself, but for also people who share similar like aspirations. But I feel like one of the things that I wanted to do was also really thinking about how do we make comedy and content creation a deliberate process, right? Because some people are naturally funny, right? But they don't know how to kind of reverse engineer their funny. Right? They just know that they are funny. Right? And I feel like if you cannot reverse engineer what got you there, it's very hard to replicate it again and again. That is why we have developed, I guess, a little bit of that playbook in terms of like how do you create like content, right? Marrying people with like raw potential, right? With people with technical skill sets, so that you can kind of, mesh it all up together into like a nice like playbook of sorts. So that it's not always like incidental success, it's actually engineered success that we are trying to get to as frequently as possible.
And what have you found to be the hardest, doing humor?
I think when it comes to humor, the truth is that you can't be everybody's cup of tea. And in the early years before I started my own social media account, all my dad jokes or lame jokes were all going onto SGAG. And there were a fair share of people who love it, and there were a fair share of haters of this dad jokes. So that's one thing that we realized. Right, when it comes to humor, there's just no one size fits all. That's where we try to kind of play around, right? Be open about, what are the different kinds of humor, what's the kind of different execution style that appeals to different groups of people.
So do you think that it's hard to relay this humor and comedy to a society like Singapore?
I actually think that deep down inside, they're all funny people. We just don't know how to express it. And I feel like right now, with social media, with like TikTok, with all the tools that's available, more and more people are opening up and digging out that inner comedian in them to kind of express it. So I can see that shift like really, really like kind of happening. I also see that, Singaporeans have slowly grown to learn how to use like comedy as a form of coping with like the stress of like society, right? We can't stop trains from breaking down. But what we can do is, hopefully laugh while going through that train breakdown or walking on the MRT track, And I think that, comedy has become a little bit of a tool to cope with all these things that we also cannot control. Like if we cannot solve the problem, at least we laugh about it. Laugh about it, right?
It brings me to the next question. Have you ever had to use humor to overcome any personal challenges in your life? Like anything difficult in your...
Maybe the closest that I can think of is probably the miscarriage that happened to my wife and I. It was a very difficult period for me. I mean, so I kind of stayed off social media for a while because it just felt like I wasn't in the right headspace to be creating funny content while I was going through something that is like that. But I think what was really amazing was that when I eventually kind of got back, I realized that, hey, I've experienced something that impacted me and affected me. There's a lot. But I also realized that there is a supportive community out there who was also, embracing, this difficult phase in my life, who's also still looking forward, right, to whatever I can give them, whether is it from a comedy point of view or, just sharing something that's deeply personal about my life, with them. So I think that is the beautiful thing. And eventually got me back to thinking about one of the purpose in my life, which is to also still bring smiles to people around me. So I think that is where comedy has helped because it's always been one of the purpose and vision that I have in my life.
And it allows you to talk about hard things as well, right?
I mean, I feel like that makes it real for people, right? I feel like, if all I'm doing is just sharing all the happy things and all the funny things, I feel like that is a fake persona that I'm putting out. But if they can see somebody who creates this kind of content, who has this kind of persona, being able to also own, themselves in difficult episodes of their lives, being able to show the vulnerable side of their personality. I feel like that also encourages people to be more real with themselves, right? They don't have to put up a fake front for anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, like right now you're in a bit of a transition to find yourself. Do you think that's also due to fatherhood?
Definitely, 100%. I think my boy kind of made me think about life in a very different way. Kids they don't hide. They don't hide emotions. When they feel a certain way, they will show it. And that really makes me think about how authentic I am. Yeah, like I shared earlier, when I feel something that's negative, sometimes I feel embarrassed to show it, sometimes I feel bad for showing it. But kids, they just kind of show whatever comes to them. And it makes me think a lot about, then how am I actually living my life? Have I been living my life authentically, showing who I am? And when I ask myself that question, I realized that the answer is actually not a straight yes. There's actually yes, but a lot of no here and there. That made me want to kind of find out a little bit more in terms of how can I find myself and who I am, how can I live authentically. I think what 𝙒𝙦𝙦 or Zachary did also for me is me trying to set the best example for him. Right, as a dad, as a man, as a human being. Because what I realized is that kids are very impressionable. They kind of just learn everything from their parents, whether, is it something that is spoken or unspoken. You think that at a young age, they might not know anything, but you realize that they really pick up some of these things really, really fast. And that made me want to kind of push myself really hard to not just be a good version of myself, but to really be the best version of myself, so that, my boy has a good example to learn from. I will still be imperfect, but at least, maybe even him seeing how hard I'm trying to improve myself, to work on myself, to fix some of these things that I feel I'm not satisfied with, hopefully will also inspire him in the future to do the same if he ever meets with some of these challenges.
And speaking of that, congrats, you've got number 2 coming along. We all know that she's a girl, right?
Yeah.
So is 𝙒𝙒 excited? Do you think he's ready to be a big brother? Or does he know what's happening, that he's going to have some competition?
Honestly, I also feel like he knows that very soon attention will be taken away from him. So ever since he knew maybe about a month ago or so, he has been extremely attached to my wife. He only wants my wife for everything.
He knows.
He will just reject everybody else. And I think that is where we are also trying to read up and get advice from friends who have a second kid, on how do they prepare their first for a second one that's coming up. How do we make sure that he still continues to feel loved and cared for?
So you share a lot of 𝙒𝙒 on social media and all that. Some celebrities or influencers may agree with it. Some may not. Some they choose to keep their children behind the scenes. Yep. What prompted you to share 𝙒𝙒 with your fans as well?
Maybe it's not so much for my fans or the community. I kind of treat social media as a little bit of a diary for myself. And I think that is the way that I kind of see it. But I do think that, when it comes to social media, there is also a need to have a careful use of it, especially when it comes to parents. Yeah, because I guess social media, once it's up there, it's going to be there forever. Right? And people will form different perception and opinions about it, no matter what your intention might be. When it comes to showing, my family life, showing, 𝙒𝙒 and my daughter who's coming along, I'm very deliberate about what I show. It shouldn't be something that puts them in a negative light. It shouldn't be something that embarrasses them. Yeah, so I feel like that is where I kind of draw the line a little bit in terms of what I post. That's really my thoughts on that. And I completely understand why certain parents wouldn't want to do that, because, social media, we all know, is also a space where it's kind of getting more regulated, but it's also something that's quite unregulated at this current point in time. And there are dangers of some of this content being misused for whatever reasons.
So with the fame, for example, all these years, right? I'm sure you've had your fair share of negative comments and maybe naysayers. If you can remember some of the worst ones, and how did you deal with it? Because a lot of influencers might go through the same thing as well.
So this one, maybe I'll use a little bit of a SGAG like example. Because, in early days, the social media space, a bit more like a Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
Super Wild Wild West. We were doing a lot of making fun of people. When somebody does something, say something wrong, we'll kind of make fun of them. And we kind of realize that when we make fun of people, there's one person that's actually the subject of this laughter,
mockery.
this mockery. And when we think about our mission of making everybody's day like a better one, is that truly aligned with our vision? We realize that actually no. I mean, I think there are other form of like entertainment, there are other form of humor without that making fun part. There were, to be honest, like feedback from people writing to us and say, hey, it's actually not very nice. I know that you do it, you're not very, being very vicious about it or whatsoever, but it's still not very nice to kind of make fun of like one person just because of what he or she kind of did. So we heard a couple of these comments, and we realized that, okay, I think we need to pivot away from this DNA of ours. And that was a pivotal moment when we decided to, remove this from our content pillar entirely. Yeah.
I see. Now, speaking about that, as an influencer yourself, or you also build up talents for SGAG, right? You are very focused in like a sort of like a mentor already, right? What is the hardest thing about recognizing talent and building them up? And, what do you love most about it as well?
I think the most difficult thing is really trying to understand everybody's purpose and vision. Yeah, because every creator and why they want to do content, why they get started, and what keeps them going is different. So I think being able to kind of really understand, right, what is this creator thinking about, right, at the start of his journey, where he or she is at right now, and where does he or she wants to go in 5 to 10 years' time. It is not an easy task. And that's what we decided to come in and do, right? Because what we truly want to do for the entire creative space or for creators is to help them build impactful, long-lasting career. Because I do feel like being able to create content that resonates with people is not easy. Right? It takes some talent, it takes some passion, it takes maybe luck and opportunity all happening at the same time. And when there are people like that who have done that, I feel like it's a waste when they kind of give it up. Right, because of whatever reasons, be it, the fact that they cannot make enough money to sustain this as a career, they creatively burn out, or there's like politics and dramas that happen that causes them to kind of stop this entire journey altogether. And I think my goal is to really help more of them like succeed. And that is the challenge that we have set for ourselves. Yeah.
Have you ever had like a creative burnout in the last?
Oh, for sure. Always.
And how did you overcome it?
So definitely I have experienced creative burnout. I think what I do learn is to kind of try to think about the science. Because if you know the science, if you have frameworks or, playbooks that you can kind of jump into, whether is it, creative thinking framework, design thinking framework, right? Being able to really critically analyze what other creators are doing. It gives you different sources of inspiration, right? So that when you actually hit a creative block, you're not just gonna sit there, stare into blank space, right? And try to think of something. Sometimes it works, right? I mean, that's why, sitting on the toilet bowls is where a lot of the guys, a lot of us, get a lot of creative like inspiration. But outside of that, right, you can't spend the entire day in the toilet. Yeah, so I think having some of this actual structure, having a team actually would also help, right? Because creating content, right, being able to think of ideas can be quite a lonely like process. Right? But if you can really build a community around you who's aligned with you, who's able to kind of banter with you, offer you, diverse thoughts in a safe space, is also very important. Because if you kind of do it alone, you might experience like burnout. Just because you're kind of just talking to yourself most of the time. Yeah.
And what do you look out for, like in the talent that come to SGAG or even to you? I'm sure there are certain things that you also experience in that area. What is the first thing you look out for? They have to be funny.
No lah. I think what we really look for is hunger and drive. Yeah, because to survive in this game, to constantly stay ahead of the curve, right, to be able to ride the wave, you really need to have a lot of hunger and drive, right, to want to succeed, right, to want to try, right? Because if you just want to chill and coast, you can lah, right? But it might not necessarily set
Get
you
you
up
there.
for success, right? And in this space, to be honest, right now in the entire creator space, it's very competitive, right? Especially with TikTok, right? Last time, maybe again 5 to 7 years ago, you can count with 2 hands, 2 feet all the different big media creative houses and companies. But now it's
There's
like
so
there's
many,
thousands that's out there. There are kids in school who have nothing to lose, who has more drive to succeed, and they're willing to do and try like anything. Yeah, so I feel like that hunger and drive is extremely important.
That's right. Yeah. And do you see a big change between when you first started out and the talents now? Like, is there a big significant change in terms, like, aside to the drive and the purpose? Because technology has, like what you mentioned now, right? There's so much competition. Even kids in secondary school and primary school, are being exposed to technology these days. So what change do you see, and what do you think will happen in the future?
I feel like some pioneer generation in social media space talking about this. I think the biggest change, which is a good change, right, is that people are coming with not just pure passion alone. I feel like now they all have an outlet, a platform where they are already trying things. Yeah. So because in the past, 10 years ago when we hire people, nobody would have done anything right on their own, right? Because there's just not enough platforms for them to try some of these things out. Yeah. But now, everybody has an Instagram account, everybody has a TikTok account, and everybody is creating content in one way or another. So I feel like it is good for the space, right? In terms of like the quality of like talents, the experience that people already have when they decide, they want to be like a creator or a talent or jump in as a full-time like creative. So I do think that is a good thing. The change that I see that might potentially happen in the future is that I feel like when it comes to this entire social media space, there is some sort of like a cycle. Yeah, because having been doing this for like the past 12 years, is that every time a new platform comes about, like TikTok, it kind of equalizes the game for everybody. Everybody starts from zero. And what's amazing about TikTok is that they provide the tools, right? You want editing tools, music licenses, you want all the effects. Everything is in the app itself. But I think what we are seeing is that, as the platform gets a little bit more mature, everybody starts, increasing their quality, their production quality, right? Their storytelling skills becomes extremely high. Their followers are also like at a very, very high level. The speed of growth for new creators might not be as high anymore because, everybody, there are already very prominent like creators. So it's similar to, maybe you roll back like a couple of years ago when maybe YouTube, right? YouTube became like a space where unless you have a studio, unless you have fancy gears, you have a big team, you cannot start a YouTube channel. And there are so many prominent YouTubers already. Like if you want to kind of disrupt the space,
it's very hard.
It's very hard, right? Unless you are backed up by some rich investors or you come from a more well-to-do family or whatsoever. So I do feel like, there might be, right, another platform that will come about, right, as TikTok starts maturing. The barriers of entry for new creators starts getting higher and higher, right? For, a new platform that might come about to disrupt this entire game altogether, where it kind of, everybody starts on a level playing field again.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, going back to your son again, Zachary, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, what have you enjoyed most about being a dad so far? And what are you looking forward to with your daughter?
What I enjoy the most is really like just the simplest of things. Yeah, to be able to spend time with him, I feel like it is such an amazing feeling as a dad. And I think, being in Singapore, we all have to work. So time is very, very like precious. Yeah, so being able to spend time with him and seeing the smile on his face, the hearty laughter that he has when you play with him. Yeah, that is to me like the happiest thing. Yeah. And I would love to be able to kind of do more of that. Or if not, if I cannot increase the quantity, then increase the quality of time that I kind of spend with him. And that I feel like has brought me the biggest joy.
And what do you think about the recent news, where they talked about the shared parental leave recently, right? As a dad, what do you think about that? Like, Singapore really, like, are we heading in the right direction? Is it time for the dads to step up?
Not enough. Can you give more?
It's a public service announcement. Yeah.
I think it's amazing. Yeah, I feel like, with parenthood, it's not just mothers who's taking care of the kid, right? Parenthood is a joint duty between the dad and the mom. And maybe, in the past, men took on more of the role as a breadwinner. But I feel like society has changed and evolved to a point where, both men and women are all breadwinners of the family. And similarly, both should have, equal shared responsibilities like at home. A dad should be as involved as a mom. And I feel like even for dad and mom, they kind of serve different purposes, right? Yeah, I mean, kids goes to different parents for different reasons. For Pluto, he goes to my wife for emotional support. When he's upset, when he's sad, when he's angry, he'll go to my wife. But when he wants to play, that's where I come in. So even my wife was just like, your bedtime with him is completely different from my bedtime with him. My wife's bedtime with him will be like, oh, how do you feel today? What did you do? Is there anything that makes you happy? Just now that thing that made you upset. Why? How can I make you feel better? In the bedroom with him, me and him were just jumping around, jumping off boxes, wrestling, flicking things around. Yeah, so I do think that, kids goes to the different parents for many different reasons. And I feel like that's where this shared parental leave, I feel like it is a very good initiative. I mean, we live in a very stressful society. And I think being able to bring up healthy families, loving families where parents get to spend, valuable, precious, meaningful time with kids is very important. And I think this initiative by the government is helpful. It's helpful. At least, they set the tone, they set the mission, right, for, I guess, companies and society to follow suit.
Right. Now, as an influencer yourself, how do you draw that line between who you are as a person and your public life? And now you're also a parent, so it's like you have 3 different roles to juggle, right? Like, how do you juggle all these, and ensure that you're giving the best to each?
It goes back to some of the things that I've shared earlier. In knowing who I am, having the tools to kind of understand myself, and in these different roles that I play in my life, how do I want to show up? Instead of letting life take me, I should kind of decide how I want my life to be. So if I'm a dad at home, how do I want to show up as a dad? Being authentically myself, setting the best example, creating a safe family environment for my kid to grow up in. That is how I want to kind of show up as myself, at home. And as a public persona, how do I want to show up is what I've shared. I want to use it as a little bit of a diary, and if it can spread joy, love, meaning, useful information as a parent for you to kind of grow, for us to kind of grow together as parents. I feel like that is what I want to do with the influence that I have. So I think being able to clearly understand some of these things help me to draw that line. Because sometimes if we don't really pay attention to it, it can get extremely blurred. And then you run into scenarios like, why am I doing this? Should I be doing this? So I think having regular check-ins as you move into the different phases in your life is important.
I see. And another question is about your plants. You love your plants, as everyone knows, right?
Would you like some? I don't approve of this fake plant over here. I can't. You need some real plants, I'll bring some over for you.
I can't keep a plant alive for any reason.
You can. You just haven't gotten the right guidance. And the tools, I'll give you the tools.
So how do you keep your plants alive?
They're out of control now.
Really?
My wife is not exaggerating. It's out of control.
It's like gardens by the way. Bay.
Yeah, it is Gardens by the Bay that is, growing out of the dome already.
So what is your secret to your plant life?
I blame this ex-colleague of mine. So when I moved into my new house, he gave me a plant during housewarming and I kept it for a couple of months and it started growing very well. So I got very confident. I was like, whoa!
Wow, green fingers.
Oh, I can do this. So I started buying one and started buying another one. And I was like, oh, this leaf, I want to buy the other shape. I want to buy another size. I started buying like all variations. And one thing that I didn't realize about buying plants is that they grow. And they grow very fast. And they grow very well. Like, because my house, I don't know, is facing the west sun. So a lot of sun, the plants are like just growing out of control. And because they grow so tall, I have to kind of snip them off. And I snip them off. Actually, you can like propagate plants by kind of putting them in water and soil and they will grow into a new plant again. So I did that. So my one plant now multiply into like 10 plants. I'm like, oh. Yeah, so now it's a little bit out of control. So I started shifting some to office. So now the ones in office are also growing out of control.
Right. So SGAG is also now like Gardens by the Bay.
Yeah. So I'm starting to see how can I give them away. Try to,
we don't mind some.
Yeah, okay. I'll definitely bring some for you. Yeah, but going back to maybe a little bit more philosophical side
of having plants.
Of having plants, it is just, I guess, little moments where I get to slow down and just water my plants and observe, hey, this plant grew a new leaf like today. That's very nice. And because I feel like with life and with work, we get so caught up. We're just chasing one thing, one deadline after another, rushing from one meeting to another. But kind of plant forced me to slow down for that 15 minutes when I'm watering it. Now maybe 20, 30 minutes because there's more plants. Yeah, a bit too long now. but yeah, that was what it kind of did to me. And just to be able to see something grow over time that you cannot rush, it's actually quite a beautiful thing. Yeah. Because we're always expecting like fast results. We don't do this and we get results.
Yeah, and you don't get that with plants.
But with plants, you kind of like have to nurture it over a period of time. And then a new leaf pop out is because of all the care and concern that you gave for the past 30 days.
What's your top advice for growing green plants? I need some. My plant is dying.
It is a lie that succulents and cactuses are easy to take care of. But they're actually very hard to keep.
Yeah.
Because they say, you don't really need to take care of it.
Yeah, you just leave them there.
Leave them there. So sometimes you leave them there for too long. Or sometimes like you water them like too much and then they die. So yeah, don't get cactuses or succulents.
What's your favorite plant?
Oh, my favorite plant is this like dragon shaped like leaf like plant. It's called golden dragon.
Is it hard to take care of?
It's okay. It's okay. I've come to kind of narrow down to like just this group of plants. It's kind of easy to take care of. Yeah. But now I need to find plants that don't grow out of control too easily.
How does your wife take your... I think she's not.
She's just like, I think she's given up lah. She's given up. So she's very happy that I'm like giving away my plants now. She's like, wow, what changed you? Okay,
so bonus, right? Okay, dad jokes.
Where's my shades? I need to take my shades.
we cannot let you leave without a couple of dad jokes.
Okay. This one is a classic one that I really, really love.
Okay.
So let me ask you, why is it that, Transformers, right, cannot see his like father or mother?
Cannot see his father?
Cannot see. I just cannot see.
Because he's wearing a mask?
No. Because they are transparent. Get it?
Oh my god.
Okay. Another one that's related to, my favorite thing, plants. So do you know why, right? People who make a lot of mistakes in their lives, right, are the people who need to keep plants.
They need patience.
That's a politically correct answer.
Okay.
Because if you keep plants, right, you always have the opportunity to turn over a new leaf.
Oh my. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, one more.
Wow, one more. Where do you think in Singapore where every turn feels very unfamiliar? Every turn that you make just feels very unfamiliar.
Every turn, Every turn where? Every turn in Singapore just...
Newton, right? Alright, come back for SGAG right now.
Wow! Unless you made that joke before.
Have I? I don't know, man. I've made so many that I've lost count.
No, but that's good. You can. Yes. Okay, since she has not counted one more.
Wow. Oh, okay. But this one I've made it before, but I don't know whether you have seen it. Okay. Where in Singapore, right, is the safest? Which road in Singapore is the safest?
Ting. Ting, 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 ting. Everyone ting. Which road is it? Cantonment.
That is the
Correct answer.
Yeah, but that's not the
The
Xiao Ming
funny answer. Which road in Singapore is the safest? She's Googling it!
Don't have this one. I never
This
find
is
it on
a
Google.
Xiao Ming answer.
This is original joke.
Okay, give up.
Okay. Give up.
Yeah.
Is Havelock Road because they have a lock there, you know.
Oh my god, Havelock. Okay, very good. Where do you find these jokes? It comes naturally.
Yeah, this one is like really like just observing things and
Are you worried that one day Ploop Ploop will pull a joke on you and so?
I'm looking forward to that. And then I will know that there's my boy, that's my son right there. He got my genes.
Now, thank you so much. We've come to the end already. But before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, what advice do you have for people looking to sort of like follow in your footsteps and what you have done, all these?
I really, really feel like, we all should invest in ourselves. I feel like investing in ourselves is not something that you should do only when you're going through like a difficult phase like in your life. I feel like everybody should, put in the time and effort and money to go and learn a little bit more about yourself so you understand yourself like a little bit better. Yeah, so that you know how to navigate your life through the ups and downs like a little bit better. And there's one thing that I wish I've done earlier, but I'm glad I'm doing it now because I feel like, I'm a lot more peace and connected with my entire being.
All right. Thank you so much, Adrian.
Thank
it's
you.
really
Thank
wonderful.
you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, it was such a nice chat.
Thank you. And to our listeners, and thank you for tuning into this episode of Open House. And remember, for every question, there's someone who can answer your questions. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, leave us suggestions as to what you want to hear or any other guests that you have in mind. So you can also follow us on our socials. Until next time.